Chris's joke was received as funny, as evidenced by the audience and Will Smith laughing. And this is the moment where we got to see a live-action, real-time encapsulation of how cancel culture works. Look at what happens next. Jada shoots her husband a look. Let's slow the tape down to capture this moment. Before this moment, Will is laughing because he hasn't yet found out that his original, genuine reaction is wrong and that he should conform.
Bill Maher's back at it, sprinkling Himalayan-grade salt into the still-fresh wound of Will Smith's Oscar slap saga. You know the story, Hollywood's most awkward live-action soap opera. But what you might have missed is Maher's merciless, laugh-till-you-cringe demolition of Will's alpha male meltdown. He didn't just roast him, he slow-cooked him on a spit of irony and served him with a side of ego reduction. Buckle up, this one sizzles.
I break down jokes for the humor impaired. Not that I have anyone particular in mind. Now, I know we're all sick of talking about the slap, but I'm sorry, one more thing needs to be said. Comedians have been under attack for quite some time, and I need to stick up for my tribe. This war on jokes must end. So tonight, let's Zapruder film this thing once and for all and explain jokes to idiots.
You heard the man, and he's got a point. Jokes have been catching shrapnel for years now. First, the self-appointed fun police went after movies, deciding which stories were safe enough for public consumption. Now they've zeroed in on comedy itself, drawing moral battle lines over punchlines. It's as if they've made it their life's mission to sandblast all traces of humor from civilization. But Bill Maher? He's not the type to sit back while the free exchange of laughter gets strangled by hashtags. Tired of the woke mob's ever-growing do-not-joke list, Maher grabbed his mic, his wit, and a flamethrower.
Now, at the Oscars, Chris Rock came out to present a boring award and first did what he is supposed to do, get some laughs doing what we comics call crowd work. Denzel and Javier Bardem each got spritzed. And then Chris made what in the business is known as a some is like some other joke. He said to Jada Smith, "Jada can't wait for G.I. Jane 2, recalling the late 90s movie starring Demi Moore. That's it. That's the joke. You remind me of some other beautiful, buzz-cutted movie star. It wasn't an alopecia joke any more than the one about the chicken crossing the road is about bird flu."
It wasn't an alopecia joke any more than why did the chicken cross the road is a searing commentary on avian pandemics. But here's the twist. I'll admit, I never quite saw it from that angle before. Sure, I knew G.I. Jane existed, but it honestly never clicked that Chris Rock's quip was about Jada's shaved head echoing Demi Moore's buzz cut in the film. It's a connection so obvious it's practically blinking in neon, yet most of us missed it entirely. The real takeaway? A joke is just a joke. It's not a UN resolution. It's not meant to survive post-analysis. Sometimes they land, sometimes they sting. But either way, we've got to stop acting like every punchline is a personal assault. Comedy's supposed to bruise the ego a bit. That's how you know it's alive. Now hit play. Let's keep this ride rolling.
Not an insult, although insult humor is also a staple of comedy. And in fact, an example of insulting someone's looks was on display that night when Regina Hall said, "We've been dealing with COVID for 2 years. It's been really hard on people." And Amy Schumer said, "Yeah, just look at Timothée Chalamet," and they cut to J.K. Simmons, who made a face a lot like the one Jada would make later on. But that's where it ended. It's called being a good sport, especially when you're a rich celebrity. Let the common people take the piss out of you for one stinking minute.
Award shows these days are basically safari season for comedians. An open range where the rich and famous wander right into the line of comedic fire. It's tradition at this point. The tuxes sparkle, the egos inflate, and the hosts line up their verbal sniper shots. Half the fun for the audience is watching these pampered deities of Hollywood get gently, or not so gently, dragged back to earth by a punchline. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not exactly a card-carrying fan of the public roasting ritual. Watching someone's dignity smolder in front of millions isn't always my brand of popcorn entertainment. But hey, comedy's part of the ecosystem. You sit in the front row, you might catch some friendly fire. That's not cruelty, it's just the price of admission to the joke jungle.
And this is the moment where we got to see a live-action, real-time encapsulation of how cancel culture works. Look at what happens next. Jada shoots her husband a look. Let's slow the tape down to capture this moment. Back and to the left. Back and to the left. Before this moment, Will is laughing because he hasn't yet found out that his original, genuine reaction is wrong and that he should conform.
And here's the part that still fries everyone's circuits. Will Smith actually laughed at Chris Rock's jab. Yep, laughed. Right up until Jada hit him with that frostbite-inducing death stare. One look from her and his whole vibe did a U-turn faster than a Tesla on autopilot. We all know the rest. Cue chaos, memes, and global disbelief. But that tiny blink-and-you-miss-it moment says a lot more than the slap ever did. It's a perfect snapshot of Hollywood's tango with the woke brigade. Deep down, most of these celebs don't buy half the causes they hashtag about. But like Smith, they crack under the glare. It's not moral conviction keeping them in line, it's social survival. The message is clear. Laugh at the wrong thing, say the wrong word, and you won't just lose applause. You'll lose your career.
His original, genuine reaction is wrong and that he should conform to a different view. And he's the one who's being manly? I've seen the same syndrome happen in comedy clubs. Woke hecklers who literally have to wait for the laughter to die down before they yell, "That's not funny!"
In that split second, Will Smith probably thought he was doing the noble, chivalrous thing, defending his wife's honor like a knight with a designer tux instead of armor. On paper, it sounds gallant. In practice, not so much. What played out on that Oscar stage wasn't a triumph of courage, it was a masterclass in surrender. Real strength isn't measured by the decibel level of a slap, it's in the quiet backbone of conviction. Smith's first instinct was laughter, and for a brief moment, he was in on the joke. Then came the glare, colder than a tax audit, and suddenly, his entire operating system rebooted. That single look flipped his switch from amused to enraged. What the world saw as a romantic act of defiance was, on closer inspection, a man folding under pressure, more worried about keeping peace at home than keeping faith with himself.
This war on jokes must end. Will Smith didn't get kicked out of the Oscars for going Ike Turner on Chris, but Kevin Hart got kicked out of hosting it for a joke. Who are these people who say cancel culture isn't a real thing? Just among comedians who've gotten fired and lost gigs for exercising their freedom of expression, the toll is high. Gilbert Gottfried and Kathy Griffin were tasteless. So what? That's why we like them.
Sure, the joke might have been tasteless, tone-deaf, or flatter than day-old soda. But that still doesn't earn it a one-way ticket to cancellation. Comedy's always been the art of dancing on the edge without a safety net. It's supposed to push buttons, make people squirm, and occasionally step on a few sacred toes. That's the whole point. If a comedian's material rubs you the wrong way, there's a revolutionary concept for that. Don't watch it. Don't buy the ticket. Don't stream the special. Don't show up at the show. Revolutionary, I know. Humor is subjective. What makes one person laugh till they cry might make another start drafting a change.org petition. But offense isn't a universal veto. Comedians have the right to swing for the fences, even if they miss spectacularly. And if someone really crosses into criminal territory, that's what laws and law enforcement are for, not Twitter with pitchforks. Until then, the best move is the simplest one. Change the channel, scroll on, and let everyone else decide for themselves. That's not apathy, that's actual freedom.
Comedians are the ones testing where the line is. We can't always be perfect any more than Tom Brady will never throw an interception. Dave Chappelle lost distribution for his documentary, and Sarah Silverman was fired from a film over an old sketch where she wore blackface to make fun of racism. Roseanne lost the TV show she created with her name on it over tweets that were very offensive, but not at all clear Roseanne knew them to be. She is crazy, and I say that as a friend.
Sarah Silverman's story hits like a punchline that suddenly turns into a gut check. Her infamous blackface sketch wasn't meant to mock or demean. It was a satirical gut punch aimed at racism itself, exposing just how grotesque and deeply rooted it really is. She wasn't trafficking in hate. She was wielding satire, comedy's oldest and sharpest scalpel, to carve out an uncomfortable truth. But nuance, as always, was the first casualty. The ever-outraged woke brigade took one look, skipped the context, and hit the outrage button like it was a game show buzzer. Instead of debating her message, they torched her for the medium. The cruel irony? In trying to provoke reflection on racism, Silverman found herself canceled by the very cultural enforcers who claim to fight it. Her story is a cautionary tale for our times. Even when you're swinging in the same direction as the mob, one wrong note, and suddenly they're swinging at you.
Will Smith wasn't pulled off stage, but comedian Nimesh Patel was literally pulled off stage during a performance at Columbia for a joke about how hard it is to be gay and black. Not an anti-gay joke, mind you, a pro-gay joke. But one of the event organizers walked on stage and said, "I don't think you're entitled to certain jokes you're making." Well, a sense of entitlement certainly is a big part of the problem here, but not on the part of the comedian.
Now, this is where things slide from ironic to downright absurd. Comedian Nimesh Patel was literally yanked off stage mid-set, not for mocking the woke crowd, but for making a joke that was actually on their side. Let that marinate for a second. He agreed with them, and still got canceled. It's like trying to pet a cat that scratches you for doing it correctly. At this point, it feels like the outrage brigade has reached a paradoxical enlightenment. So woke, they've woken up against themselves. If you poke fun at them, you're a villain. If you echo their worldview, you're still problematic. Congratulations, comedians. The ground beneath you is officially made of quicksand. Patel's experience nails the bigger point. It's not about what's being said anymore, it's about who's allowed to say anything at all. And when comedy becomes a minefield instead of a mirror, we all lose the ability to laugh at the truth.
The people who can't take a joke now aren't old ladies in the Bible Belt. They're Gen Z at elite colleges. Colleges where comedy goes to die. Kids used to go to college and lose their virginity. Now they go to lose their sense of humor.
It's wild how far colleges have drifted from their original mission. Once upon a time, these were supposed to be arenas of intellectual gladiators, where ideas clashed, debates raged, and students walked away with a few mental bruises and a sharper mind. The whole point of higher education was to collide with opposing worldviews, not bubble wrap yourself from them. Now, many campuses resemble ideological terrariums, self-contained, overwatered, and allergic to fresh air. They've become echo chambers so thoroughly steeped in wokeness that dissenting opinions aren't just frowned upon. They're treated like biohazards. Students are being trained not to debate, but to delete anything that challenges their comfort zone. The tragedy is that this isn't strength, it's fragility in a cap and gown. We're raising a generation fluent in outrage, but illiterate in nuance, not because their arguments are unbreakable, but because they've never been stress-tested. And if that doesn't concern you, it should. Because the moment we stop questioning, we stop thinking.
Vice recently interviewed college bookers who revealed that before a comedian even takes the stage, they're asked to edit out anything from their act that may cause offense, leaving a world where more and more topics are off limits, and soon there'll be nothing left to joke about except airline food and Starbucks getting your name wrong.
It's about time someone rattled the ivory towers. Say what you will about Donald Trump, but his call to clean house in academia hits a nerve that's been twitching for years. Colleges are meant to be laboratories of learning, not political megaphones with tenure. Yet too many professors have swapped Socratic dialogue for sermonizing, treating the classroom like their own personal TED Talk on ideological purity. Education is supposed to teach how to think, not what to think. Students should be sharpening their logic, not memorizing the party line. By calling out the indoctrinators and nudging universities to restore a bit of intellectual balance, Trump's putting pressure exactly where it belongs. Curiosity shouldn't be a casualty of higher learning. It should be its heartbeat. Clearing out the echo chamber isn't censorship. It's housekeeping for the mind. Because here's the through line. From Will Smith's slap heard round the world, to Sarah Silverman's misunderstood satire, to Nimesh Patel's mid-set exile, all the way to campus's silencing debate. The pattern is the same. Fear has replaced conversation. We've traded the risk of offense for the safety of silence. And when that happens, comedy dies, free speech withers, and education turns into indoctrination. Real progress doesn't come from everyone nodding in unison. It comes from friction, from disagreement, from words that sting before they enlighten. So, if you made it this far, do the modern thing. Smash that like button, tap the bell, and brace yourself for more uncomfortable truths next time. Thanks for watching, and remember, thinking freely is the last rebellious act left.